Hey, coaches. I believe this is episode 24. And we're not going to talk X's and O's today. We're not going to talk drills. Today we're going to talk about books as we try to fight Corona boredom right here on the Coach Chip channel, Football Talk with Coach Chip. What are you reading? So today we're going to talk about different books, some things I've read, some things I'm reading, and I want to get feedback from you. What you tell me what you're reading. In this Dragon program. Episode 24, Football Talk with Coach Chip, brought to you by Tammy Pierce Real Estate. She's your homegrown, hometown realtor in Pine Mountain, Georgia. Call the lady. I did. Johnny Bucket's podcast, best pound for pound sports podcast out there. Find it wherever you get your podcast. That's the Johnny Bucket's podcast with Thrift Behringer, a couple of good dudes. And then, of course, Johnny's New York style pizza in beautiful nearby downtown West Point, just about 23 miles from Coach Chip, about halfway between Atlanta and Montgomery if you're on I-85. They are good commercial citizens of West Point and the surrounding area. I've told you all that before. You can get curbside pickup. He's converted his servers to delivery people, so you can get contactless delivery of your very own Bake It at Home pizza kit. Give them a call at 706-645-2010, or you can get it already made, traditional, go ahead and deliver it. They'll just text you or call you whenever it's there. And also you can get a baked panini, or penne, or a baked lasagna, and you can bake it yourself. They give you the cheese and the tomato sauce. You can take it home, put it on there at your convenience. If you're on your way home about 5 o'clock, but you're like us, you don't eat until Jeopardy's on at 7, then you can get it that way as well. All right, what are you reading, folks? You're reading instructional stuff, like coaching how-to, coaching articles. Find a lot of those on the internet. Playbooks. I used to be big into playbooks. Biographies. I love biographies. Remember, I'm a certified history teacher and certifiably insane too. Novels. I ain't as big on novels as I used to be. I'd rather watch a novel, wait for it to come out. But I love biographies. Motivational stuff. Things, like Urban Meyer's book, Nick Saban's book. There's several other coaching books out there where they talk about that. Was it John Maxwell? All kind of motivational stuff, organizational stuff, any of your how-to books. What are you reading? There's all kind of things. Folks, take advantage of this. And what inspired me is this morning on my run, I was listening to Keith Grabowski on the USA Football Coach and Coordinator podcast. And they had a guy on there, he's a sports psychologist, talking about stuff that we can do during this downtime. Not just, diagram plays and look at game film, but stuff we can do to become better people, better coaches, better husbands, better fathers, better teachers, if you still do that. All right, now, like I said, I love coaching bios. I've read every book written about Bear Bryant. Every one of them. Going back to the one that came out when I was like 12 years old. Right when he won, there was 2 or 3 in the early 70s. John Underwood. He was a Sports Illustrated guy. He wrote that book, and it was just called Bear. And there have been 4 or 5 since then, some about him that weren't necessarily about him, but about stuff at University of Alabama. I was born right down the road in Columbus, Georgia. We lived in Phoenix City, Alabama when I was born. I've told y'all before, my daddy was a soldier, and he was from between Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, a little old coal mining and still iron mining town of Bessemer, Alabama. And he grew up an Alabama fan back when they weren't real good, back in the early mid-50s. The Ears Whitworth years. The Ears years. And he was in high school when Coach Bryant came back home when Mama called. And there's a picture of me somewhere sitting in my daddy's lap when I was about 6 years old, listening to the Alabama-Auburn game at about, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sure about the time. We were stationed in Okinawa, Japan. And we were stationed over there. It was really the height of the Vietnam War. And I was an Alabama fan. I had a choice. And so I've read everything about Coach Bryant. I honestly think, my daddy was never allowed to do sports. They just didn't do that. My granddaddy thought that was a waste of time. And they didn't have a whole lot of money. And so he just never did sports. So he always encouraged me to go into it. And I think that has something to do with me becoming a coach. But also, Coach Bryant, he was the man. And then, of course, my daddy always talked about Lombardi. And the first football book I ever read was a Lombardi book. The cover of it looked like a football. Something I can't remember the name of it. I got in trouble when I was in college for checking it out and keeping it too much. And then I'd go back and just recheck it. And finally they quit letting me recheck it. So you got to let it sit here 2 weeks, give somebody else a chance. And I think, and you go back and somewhere in the Troy State Library at Lurleen Burns Wallace Hall, there's that book. And if you can go into it and look, you can see where there's like 15, 16 times I checked that book out. So I love Lombardi. But here recently, they came out with a biography, and I got it for you, When Pride Still Mattered. And it is the guy who wrote the Clinton biography, Dave Moranis wrote this book. Now, I'm going to talk to you about some books that I don't have because I bought them and I loaned them out. This one is not getting loaned out. I've read it two and a half times. Well, I've read it 2 times completely, and I go back and I read excerpts of it here and there. And it's just a great book. It's not X's and O's. But if you're like me, you're a football coach and also a history buff, this is a great read. You may be able to find it pretty cheap I bought it on Amazon like 4 or 5 years ago. Dave Moranis, he's one of the best biographers out there. Okay, that's a good book to read. Go back to the screen. So When Pride Still Mattered, good. Pat Summitt's book, A Life in Perspective. It's kind of biography, a memoir. That's a great book. I think that's the one where she said, you're never too old to reinvent yourself. And at the time, I weighed about 350 pounds. And now I weigh 235 pounds. And a lot of it had to do with her. I cried when she died. She was a hero of mine. I was one of those people that thought she could have coached anything. Men, women. She could have coached math. She could have coached football. I don't mean this. The X's and O's? No, but she knows people. She knew how to get the most out of them. My brother and I, remember I said we're Alabama fans. About 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we started an email campaign to get Mal Moore, the AD at Alabama at the time, to hire her as the men's basketball coach at the University of Alabama. A true story. Some people talked about it. I mean, it made news. It didn't. Our names didn't. But there were other people that talked about it. I think it got mentioned on the Feinbaum show. And some of you guys that are out there, and guys in Canada, guy in Australia, guy over in England that are watching these, Feinbaum is a well-known sports calling show in the Southeast. Now it's kind of all over the world because of ESPN. So those are all good examples of some books, like they're bios. So also, you got instructional books, and I love the instructional books, and I got them all right here that are by high school coaches. And the reason why, high school coaches and small college coaches, I don't think Alex Kirby is coaching anymore right now. I talked to him a few years ago when I got the first book. Now, guys, none of this stuff is like inside baseball stuff. What Alex does, he just gets a bunch of film. I think he interviews some people too, and breaks it down and gives you it's like he's scouting. And he broke down the Auburn offense. This was the 2010 season, I think, that he broke down the Cam Newton year when they won the national title. It's a good book. And it's done from a perspective that people like us, like I've told y'all before, we don't coach on Saturdays. Unless you're one of the northern or Midwestern coaches that play on Saturday mornings. We don't coach college football or pro football. Guys like Alex do a good job, and he did a good job with the Chip Kelly offense. These are good books. Okay, like I said, you're not getting inside baseball here. You're not getting any inside scoop. Would you get more if you went over to Auburn or went to Oregon, well, to UCLA now, and talked with a GA? Probably. Okay. Now, I can go over to Auburn and talk to a GA. You can't. No, not because I'm an inside guy, but because I live 40 miles from Auburn. Okay. I can't go to UCLA. But Kirby did a good job. Of course, it was Oregon then, of breaking these down. Another guy who's written several books, and this is the most recent one I bought. It's not the most recent one he wrote, But Rich Hargett, who I met several years ago at the clinic over in Dublin, Roger Holmes's clinic, this is a good cat. And again, I mean, he's not reinventing football here, but he's doing things. And have you ever seen any of his film that he posts on Twitter and other sites? Guys, he's not playing with the kind of cats you're going to see in some of these suburban Atlanta schools, or some of these Florida schools. He's not playing with those kind of kids. He's playing with the kind of kids about 90% of us play with. And so if he does it, you could probably do it as well. So Hargett is a good resource. And if nothing else, here's buying a book, a football book, a coach's book. It's like going to a clinic. You get 1, 2, 3 things out of it. It was a great weekend. It was money well spent. And if nothing else, if you buy a book and you spend the $10 to $20 on it, man, I looked at one the other day, and I won't call anybody's name. They wanted $38. Boy, they were proud of that book, right? Not this one. It was somebody else. I wouldn't do it. Rich never charges that. They wanted I think it was a small college guy. He wanted $38 for a paperback book. Kiss my fanny and call me Charlie. I ain't doing that. $38. He's proud of that thing. He must put a lot of time into it. Rich Hargett's a good one. Kirby's a good one. James Venn out in Texas is a good one. I've got one on my iPad, an ebook that I got from him about tempo and RPO stuff. Great book. James does a good job. And again, they're playing with high school kids. Stan Zweifel, I believe he wrote an Inside Zone book. And you say, well, he's a college coach. Yeah, but he's D3, D2. They're not playing with the same cats we see playing at 3:30 on CBS. Okay? They're not getting the cream de la creme. They're not getting 5 stars and 4 stars. All right? And so they got to coach them. Let me go ahead and put that out there. And I'm not on my soapbox. Listen to me. Why in the world, and I love Nick Saban, roll tide. I've already made that clear. Okay? And I'm right down the road from Auburn, right up the road from Auburn, technically. Love that bunch over there, too. Good staff. But they're not doing a whole lot of stuff that we can do at our level. So why would you visit with Gus? Why would you visit with Nick, okay, or Sarkisian? Now, you can get tips to help you. But there's a lot of stuff they're doing we can't do. We're not playing with the same kids, okay? And if you're playing high school football with those kind of kids, it don't matter what you run anyway. Alan Trimble, good resource. That book he wrote about coaching football years ago. It's like a Bible. It's a pretty good sized book, but it's an easy read. And that's a good book. Rick Stewart, his videos, his books are good stuff. He's a wing tee guy. He can sit down and talk wing tee with the best of them. And he's got the gun wing tee. And I've got several people on some different social media pages that are into the wing tee and the gun wing. If you haven't looked up Rick Stewart, and a great guy. I've hung out with him after hours at some clinics, and just a super nice guy. And a good football guy. Good football guy. Yeah, so I love the coaching profession because of guys like Rick Stewart. All right, other coach writers, for lack of a better term. Homer Smith, who just passed away a year or so ago. Former OC, UCLA, OC, University of Alabama twice. I think we have once under Curry and once under Stallings. Also, I believe he was head coach at Army at one time. Okay, and he could sit down. He could write a book on anything. He was wishbone fluent, and he was he could run the zone stuff, pro style attack, and you could tell he did some wing tee studying, because of his philosophy about things looking alike. Okay, looking alike. His inside zone, outside zone from under center, and play action pass back in the 80s with Gary Hollingsworth at Alabama. It took 3 or 4 steps where you figured out it was inside zone, outside zone, or play action pass off one of those. Literally, they look that much alike. And as much as you can make a play look alike, and I got that from Homer Smith. I saw him do it, and I've read some of his books. And I'm not going to sit here and try to list every one of them. He wrote a bunch of them. I read one of his books back in the mid-'80s before he came to Alabama, and I was all excited when he came, where he said at that time, I think the book was written in the 70s, the research, this is analytics before we called them analytics, that 70% of all high school and college football plays, remember now this is when college hashes and high school hashes were the same back then, okay? 70% of the snaps in a game were from a hash. And right then, we started doing it, and still to this day, when we're doing 11-on-11 drills, or even any kind of big group drill, balls on a hash, and what we'll do is we'll go hash, middle, hash, hash, middle, hash, hash, middle, hash. So we're getting 2/3 to a third. That's 70-30, 2/3 to a third. When we're on our snaps, because it gets the kids used to it. On my jet sweep drill that y'all have seen in episode 1, every one of those is from hash. It's just set up that way. Lou Johnston from up in Virginia, good wing tee guy, got some good gun wing tee stuff. I heard him talk a couple of years. He's retired and went back and was coaching some junior high football. And but he's a good writer, and he's had some good videos. Denny Crehan may be still the gold standard of the wing tee books, wing tee A to Z, 101 wing tee, all kind of things. Now it wasn't Delaware wing tee, but it was good stuff, and it was easy adaptable, very adaptable. And you're talking about hardcore. I was at the National Wing Tee Clinic about 20 years ago. It wasn't quite 20, maybe 15, 16 years ago in Erie, Pennsylvania. And Lou Johnson was presenting, and Denny Crehan was sitting behind me, and Lou was talking about shotgun wing tee before it really wasn't a thing. And that's what got me leaning in that direction. And I heard Denny Crehan behind me talking to one of the other old school guys, the O-line coach there. I believe it was St. Mary's College or St. Mary's University in Erie. He said, "If you're in a gun, it ain't wing tee," or something to that effect. All right, Tubby Raymond, of course. Let me blow this up for y'all. Some of you wing tee guy. All right, I ain't gonna give you my address. Somebody may come rob me. Blame it on the COVID-19. I got me one. My baby girl, my oldest girl, had been trying to get me one for years, and they were hard to come by. And they were like $250. And I finally, just periodically, I would check Amazon, and I finally found a bookstore out in Wichita, Kansas that had one. And I went, holy crap. And it was like $50. And they just want to make this. This is the Bible. This is the Bible. If you don't have one of those, they're hard to come by. And there's many others. And these are all good coach writers. And if you notice, Homer Smith coached big-time football, Lou Johnson high school football, Denny Crehan, I know he was a position coach at Duke at one time. He's done some coaching up in Canada, but he's coached like at a lot of D2 schools. So he hasn't been coaching, a lot of his stuff when he was running his wing tee stuff. He wasn't coaching, 1AA athletes. 1A athletes. And, of course, Tubby was coaching 1AA kids up at Delaware, and beating a lot of people with better talent year in and year out, running the wing tee. And so those are the guys you want to visit with. Those are the ones that know how to win. All right, this is from USA Football. I told you, Grabowski on his podcast kind of inspired this episode of Football Talk with Coach Chip. These books were on there. I have not read Education of a Coach, I'm ashamed to say. Dave Habersham wrote that on Bill Belichick. That is on my list. Above the Line, Lessons in Leadership and Life. Okay, remember, I'm an Alabama fan, so, I had to swallow a lot of pride because, this is about the year that they beat Alabama in the playoffs. And this is a good read. This is a good read. This is where I get my Be Elite from. Tim and Brian Kite from Focus 3. That's something to look into. Anything by them. You need to follow them on Twitter or follow Brian. Brian's the boy, the son. On Twitter. And there's a chapter in here about being elite, about what is elite, being the best version of you. And I'm going to do an episode on that one day as well. But that is a great book. That's an inspirational, motivational, organizational book. The Score Takes Care of Itself. And I've got that, I believe. Oh, I thought I did. No, I do have that. I loaned it. I loaned it out. That is a great book. The Score Takes Care of Itself by Bill Walsh. And it kind of confirms some things that I thought about for years and years and years and years. All right, and I'd love to tell you about it, but we're in a short time. John Wooden's Pyramid of Success is a great book. I've got it upstairs in the library, if you know what I mean. That is a super book, and I read it periodically too, almost like a devotional book. Nick Saban's book, How Good Do You Want to Be? I've got it loaned out as well. It's a champion's tips on how to lead and succeed. Gridiron Genius by Michael Lombardi. Great book, forward by Bill Belichick. He was just on the USA podcast, football coach and coordinator podcast with Keith Grabowski. That's a good read. You can get these on Amazon, and I highly recommend it. There's the Urban Meyer Above the Line book, and I had to go on the waiting list to get that. I had to wait like 6 months. It was so popular among coaches. It was a 6 month, I think it was 6 months. I ordered it in the summer. It didn't come in until like November. All right, so what are you reading? Oh, one more thing. This is a good book, Homer Smith's book on clock management. Okay, now this is for a hardcore football coach. Okay, I mean this is a great book. It's about killing the clock, going fast when you need to go fast. That's a super book. And one of the first coaching books I ever read back in 1993. I had a principal who didn't have an athletic or coach bone in his body recommended it to me. The Winner Within by Pat Riley. It's still out there. I had long since lost my original copy. Found one on Amazon for next to nothing from one of those second vendors that use Amazon. And I went through it again, and it's already been highlighted up with and marked up just like the first did. This is a great book. If you're a coach, you need to get The Winner Within, and you can get it for next to nothing. And it doesn't have to be coaching books either. This is a great read. I read it periodically. It's not a novel or just a bunch of chapters. John Kennedy's Profile and Courage, which of course we know he didn't write. One of the later speech writers when he was president actually wrote it for him when he was a senator in the 50s. But it's a great read, especially if you're a history person like me. So what are you reading? Let me know in the comments or at siegel.chip@gmail.com or at Coach Chip on Facebook. And I'm slowly converting that page over from being a teacher and coach page to being just a coach page. It's going to be linked to this as soon as I figure out how to do it. Some of y'all know how. And at Chip Siegel on Twitter. Let me know what you're reading. Okay? All right, y'all stay safe. All right, keep yourself distant from others. Enjoy your families. Take advantage of this time. Make the most of it. Become a better football coach. And I got a lot of viewers that aren't football coaches. If you're on lockdown too, become a better person. Until we meet again, be elite.